Starship 34 is destacked after Monday's launch attempt. Booster 16 is still at Massey's undergoing testing, and SpaceX announces their plans for the Giga Bays. This and more coming up on this countdown to launch.
And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Echo down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange! 145! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! What is it? Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Welcome in, everybody, to this countdown to launch live here from Starbase, Texas. I'm your host, Gene Rowley, for this show, and today we're going to talk about what happened yesterday. We're going to talk about the Giga Bays, and we're going to talk about the future of human spaceflight. Joining me today on this countdown to launch is the one and only Ryan Weber. Ryan, good morning. Afternoon.
Morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are, I guess, Yeah, Flight 8 scrubbed at T-minus 40 for a couple of different reasons, but we'll get into those in a little bit.
Spoilers. We also have joining us today the one and only Jack Byer. Jack, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Scrubs are never fun, but it's always better to be on the ground wishing you were in space than in space wishing you were on the ground. Obviously, nobody on the flight, but let's be real. The weather was not great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm biased. I have cameras on the ground, so I want views from the ground to be good. So I'm not bummed. I texted somebody yesterday. I was like, this is SN15 vibes. Which, if you remember, SN15, the first low-altitude hop to successfully land and not blow up, was very much a day like yesterday. Although it wasn't as bad as SN11. It could always get worse. It could have been SN11 bad. But yeah, I'm doing good, Gene. I'm not even mad about the scrub.
Yeah, they happen. I mean, it's part of watching rockets launch is watching rockets not launch. And I tell people all the time, I'd rather have 100% green vehicle, right, ready to go at launch than a 50% vehicle in space. So
right, and
scrubs
I have
happen.
I have the luxury of being here, right? Like I'm normally here or in LA, mostly here. I'm not, like many of the families or the people that are traveling here to see this. For them, I do feel sort of bad about the scrub. I know, basically anytime something like this happens, there's always a segment of people who are like, yeah, this is my only day. I got to go tomorrow. I'm leaving. And it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's just how rockets go. But Starship's had a really good track record thus far. So, it is what it is.
It really has. I mean, this was the second time they've actually held it 40 seconds. We're going to give you a full status update. But remember, send your questions in at NASASpaceflight in the chat, and I'll send it over to those two guys because they're going to be answering your questions. And also, be sure to make comments. We'll see what happens. If you know, you know. Let's give everybody a status update. Ryan, I'm going to come to you for this one. We did see Ship 34 destacked. If you're watching Starbase live, which you should be, you'll see folks underneath. Do we have any word from SpaceX on, let's talk about what happened yesterday, and then we'll get into the destack and what they're working on today.
Yeah, so for those of you who, there you go, right in front of you, Ship 34 was destacked off of Booster 15. We saw the ship stand roll out. I think it was around midnight last night, give or take. It seemed like they were kind of iffy on whether or not they were going to roll it out or not. But they ended up running out. They destacked it this morning. I think it was around 9 o'clock or so this morning. And crews immediately started putting up scaffolding under the engine section. So that kind of tells me that, there might have been a slight engine issue or something along those lines. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. They're doing some work in the engine section. We did just see a skylift or windy lift, whatever you want to call it, that did roll out and is parked near Pad A, waiting to see if that might do some work on the booster. We do know that during the stream, we basically heard a few times during their count that they were going to possibly hold at T-40 because they were tracking some issues on booster, and then of course they tracked some issues on ship. It sounded like FTS, but it might have been FCS, so it could have been flight control systems or something along those lines. It's really hard to know. Could have been the flight control computer, could have been the flight termination system. There's definitely a lot of things that could obviously trip a hold. And then they held at T-40, and then it seemed clear, and then instantly, just in the snap of a finger, booster tripped a couple of multiple holds, is what they said. And at that point, it was like, all right, well, we're probably not going to go today, especially if booster trips multiple holds. So whatever it tripped, SpaceX decided it's best to, cancel the try for the day and, fix what's wrong. And, well, they destack, so they can tell you they're trying to fix what's wrong and, push forward. So Elon had sent out basically a post saying there's a lot of question marks for the flight. They said that there were 20 bar low on ground spin start pressure. Spin start being the Raptor spin start.
Really quick, what is that? Do we know what the normal spin start pressure for that system is? I thought I saw something about that go by in Discord the other day.
So if I remember correctly, on the engine itself, this is like a picture I think you took from back in like the 1.5 Raptor days. I think we saw a line saying 800 bar. But the supply, I don't know if that may not be the case anymore. They might not. I think it's around 400 bar is where it's at. I think. So 20 bar low on 400 bar. That's not insignificant. It's a low pressure, and it's probably low enough for them to trip it. Because remember, this is still an experimental vehicle. They're still conservative on their numbers and stuff on what trips what sensors where.
I imagine too they're a little bit more conservative after Flight 7, even just a little bit, and a bar is atmospheric pressure at sea level, 1 bar, right?
Give or take. So it's about 290 psi is what that is 40 bar.
Okay, I'll stop
20 bar. 20 bar.
Continue, please.
20 bar is 290 psi. But basically, so low pressure probably tripped the hold, which means that when their final checkouts, the system realized it was low on pressure to spin start the engines. And you have to remember, they got to spin. That might be the supply line to the pad. So if that's the supply line to the OLM, that's 20 bar less for starting 33 engines. That's a lot when you add it up. And then not per engine, but obviously, if it's too low, all of a sudden you may not be able to get enough engines to the actual desired speed to start them. And then you get hard starts, or you get a stall start, and then all of a sudden you might rip a turbo pump apart, and that's not good. So you don't want to do anything like that. And they're still learning the system. They're still learning the engines. So they don't really want to push that too far. So, and as part of that post, Elon said they thought it'd be best to destack and look at things. And of course, they destacked. So that's where we're at right now. They're looking into stuff. But, I'm kind of impressed we've gotten this far, and this is only our second scrub. The first one was obviously the first ever attempt to launch it, which was on Flight 1. I think this is the third time they've held it T-40, because I think the first, I actually don't. It might only be the second time, because I'm trying to remember if they even got to T-40 on the first attempt. I think that was like T-10 or 15 minutes or something along those lines.
I feel like they did, but it's all a blur.
I'd have to go back and look on that. I don't remember it. I haven't looked back on it, but either way, I know they did a T-40 hold on Flight 2. They did one here. They don't want to play around right now. The last thing they can't really afford to lose another full stack.
Yeah.
Like they did on Flight 7. They have a lot of vehicles. Yes, they're hardware rich, but you don't want to roll that dice. They tried to push it hard. They tried to stack and launch within 21 hours. They tried to do the stack in 21 hours, no full stack testing, and then launch. They tried to do that at this point in the program. They basically rolled the dice to say, let's see if we can do it. And
so that
well, I was
gonna jump in here and start asking about that because they talked to Jack real quick. They feel like they skipped stuff. Now we all know that they were very meticulous in what they were trying to do from Flight 7 to Flight 8, but to me it felt kind of rushed, or I hate to use the word rushed, maybe condensed. Right? They didn't do the wet dress rehearsal. They stacked and go, and so one of the things that Evil Genius says, is it true that they scrubbed it because they didn't paint the OLM? Right? They didn't do a lot of things we normally see them do, right? So does that play a factor?
Yeah.
Well, it could.
It could have. I mean, they didn't do a wet dress, right? It's a new block of the ship, so maybe that wasn't the best time to delete that part of the testing flow. But I'm not a rocket scientist, and SpaceX is comprised of a lot of people who are far smarter than me. But yeah, it is a little bit curious. And I know I just got done a few minutes ago saying that they're being a little bit overly cautious, perhaps, on this flight because of Flight 7. This is kind of counterindicative of that. They didn't do a wet dress, and they seemed to have been going very rapidly to get to launch. Just between the ship stack time alone was kind of wild what they were trying to achieve. So I don't know. Correlation is not causation. All the weasel words and phrases. Not a rocket scientist, but curious that this is sort of these two things do line up. I mean, it's a Block 2 of a ship, and they blew up the last one, and it makes sense that they're gonna try and get it right now. Maybe they thought that they were in a better position for launch than they were, or maybe this is just the second time, maybe third, that they've ever attempted to fully fuel a Block 2 or partially Block 2 stack. Block 1 booster, Block 2 ship. So it's not necessarily surprising that they would run into issues, and it's just how it goes,
Yeah, I mean, before the flight, we were talking about this as look at their confidence in the vehicle they've built, and now post scrub and now destack, we're like, are these things playing factors, or are they factors in this? We just don't know.
I do still think it's remarkable. Like it's still an achievement that they were able to roll the ship out, get it stacked, and get into launch posture all the way up to T-minus 40 seconds that rapidly. There's these little bits and pieces that you can see in the Starship program start to take shape over the months and years. And they mean what they say when they say airliner-like operation. Will we ever get to true airliner-like operation and rapid reusability in that sense? Hard to say, but certainly, they're trying to, like you said, Gene, condense or abbreviate this process as much as they can. We've seen the same thing with Falcon 9. Of course, that process with Falcon 9 took years because SpaceX was much more careful and had a lot more riding on the line. With Starship, part of the fun but is anteing up at the table knowing you might see an explosion in the cards.
Yeah, excitement's guaranteed. Yeah.
Right.
Ryan, you wanted to jump in on the conversation?
Well, I first want to say I said they lost the full stack. Of course, they brought booster 14 back, and they only lost ship 33. But they don't want to risk. I should say this: they don't want to risk losing a full stack. I mean, you just don't want to risk that kind of thing. So, but and in terms of rolling the ship out as quick as they did, and then stacking it and getting into launch count, I think it was just SpaceX going, well, let's see if we can do it. If we can't do it, then, we can't do it. But if we can do it, then we know our limits. We know what we can do in the future. And maybe we don't need to do, full stack testing on any of the full stacks going forward, at least on vehicles that we understand and we know. They didn't do a wet dress on Flight 5 and 6. They only did tanking tests. So, they could have just gone away. They might have gotten away with a tanking test where you only fill about a third of the tanks. You don't even have to evac. You don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. You just have to close the road for a couple hours, spin up tank farm, fill it up, and be done with it. They wanted to see if they could get into a launch count, fill these vehicles. Any issues that came along the way, they could solve during the count and launch. They wanted to see if they could do it. It's as simple. I mean, it's not like, oh, not doing full stack testing bit them. I mean, I guess it kind of did, but they were trying it as an experiment to see if they could do it at this point in the program, and well, they couldn't. So
I mean, there's something to be said for iterative testing, right? And I know a lot of times people think or take the phrasing iterative testing as like, oh, it just keeps blowing up, like they're never going to get it right. And it's like, well, no, that's really not how it works. You can go the Blue Origin route or the traditional aerospace route and study the heck out of something for years and years and years and years and years and make sure it works on the first try. Or, you know, you can do what SpaceX did or does with the Starship program and roll it out and see, can we do this? Like you said, Ryan, you know, can we accomplish this? And one way to know if you can't is to try. And one way to find out the exact things you need to fix is to just try. So yeah, and it's just to put a final point on that, like, it's a new rocket. It's, yes, Flight 8, but it's still a very new rocket. Again, second launch of a Block 2 ship. So really not unexpected, but
Yeah.
Wait,
And a
They'll
lot of
figure it
t-
out.
and-
They'll figure it out,
Yeah.
and then they'll try again. And that's what SpaceX does. I mean, one of their mantras is, fail early. And we're only on Flight 8 of how many test flights? Probably 100, maybe 75.
There's going to be a
of these
lot
things.
of
There's
flights.
going to be a
at
lot
this
of test flights. I was talking with one of the other guys here, and it was like, it's hard to believe. I think it was Jay who said it's hard to believe it's only Flight 8. We're not even in double digits yet, and here we are, like, you see people talking about, they can't do it, and it's broken, and this and that. Guys, we're not even at double digits, and we're like, they're talking about testing out the deployment mechanism, and they're doing in space reflights for future orbital flights. We're talking
Tanking
about
tests,
catching ships on different towers. We aren't even on Flight 10 yet. And we're talking about all these things in the future. It's amazing the pace that SpaceX is moving. So things like this do not bother. This is part of their plan.
I do wonder that it does make me just like, sorry, I'm wondering aloud, but like I wonder how many flights until the program is like declared operational. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you think they declare it an operation? Like, okay, there. I won't derail us. But there's so many questions that you could, so many rabbit holes related to that you can go down. Like, does SpaceX even declare it operational, or do they just start launching Starlinks and us as industry watchers are like, oh wow, it's operational? Or does SpaceX make a big, show and dance about it? And then just like, how many, like, do you really 100? Do you think it'll take 100? Or maybe it'll be operational and launching Starlinks while they still do other test flights,
That's my
like crewed
guess.
test flights, HLS test flights, tanker test flights, who knows what else, like non-Starlink deploying version, whatever you want to call that, cargo, or commercial Starship,
Like-
point-to-point Starship, DoD cargo delivery like it's I guess 100. I hadn't really thought about that. 100 test flights.
I mean, comparing Falcon 9 and Starship is apples to oranges, but you can kind of get a guess of what was it, 20 Falcon 9 launches before they actually landed one, and then how many from there to crew rating. Like,
right.
That's crazy.
Like,
Ryan's going through the Ryan brain to figure that number out right now.
No, well, you look at the vehicle and you go, okay, so to launch this flight, get through suborbital, get the heat shield tested, next flight possibly to orbit and try to catch. At that point, you go, okay, well, now you have an orbital operational rocket that you can also try to bring both stages back and land them and possibly even reuse them at that point. And then what do? You just start loading live Starlinks and you start doing operational Starlink missions. I think literally like Flight 10 or 11, you could see it being just Starlink. I don't know what shell you would call it at that point. I don't know what shell it is, but you literally do Starlink, 20-1 or something. I don't know whatever the shell they'll call it, or Starlink 14-1. I don't remember what shell they're on. But that's maybe they just give it an operational mission name, but they're also testing stuff on it, and you're doing operational Starlink missions. And then if they lose a ship or something, I mean, they lose Starlinks and they lose the ship, but you're also still testing the vehicle out. So it's not really that the end of the world. And I mean, that's the whole reason why SpaceX uses their life leaders to fly Starlinks on Falcon, is to push the envelope and see how far it can go. And if they were to lose a Starlink mission, yeah, it would kind of stink, but it's not the utter end of the world.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, this is an amazing time to be alive if you're a rocket nerd like us, because we're actually asking the question, is it harder to land a booster on a drone ship, or is it harder to catch it out of mid-flight with a pair of mechanical chopsticks? I mean, that blows the mind. 15 years ago, it was like, wait, you guys are going to do what? And now we're talking about this. It took them 20 flights to land a Falcon 9 booster. It took them 5 test flights to, now granted, not including the hops, took them 5 test flights to catch the booster. It's just an amazing time to be alive. So while we're contemplating that, we do have to switch subjects here to talk about some other things. We've still got Booster 16 at Massey's. We're going to talk about the Giga Bay, but give me a chance to thank some folks that have been generous enough to support us. Richard, thank you so much, becoming a Pad Wrap member. Thank you very much for that support. Becoming a member helps us put more cameras in the field, helps us do more broadcasts and more rocket launches for you. So thank you so much for that, Richard. Mr. One Wolf, thank you. 5 Red Team memberships gifted. If you get one of those, be sure to thank them in the chat as the camera starts to pan up. Let's see. Storm with a storm message. Let's go NSF. Thank you guys for your hard work. Can't wait to watch the launch in person soon. Yeah, come down here and watch the launch. We don't control the weather, unfortunately. If you know anybody that does, put in a good word for us, because we want to be able to see it out the window when it launches. But come down here, hang out at Rocket Ranch at the Outpost with Jack. There's lots of places to view here on South Padre Island, not only Margaritaville where we are, but down at Isla Blanca Park. There's a lot of great places. But come and plan for potential scrubs. Okay, I'm going to say that. I was talking with some folks from Ohio the other day, met them out at the launch site, super nice folks, and they had to leave because scrub, they move the launch, it slips, and they got to go home. But they'll watch it on NSF when they get home. Let's see. TerraSpace Official, thank you for that super chat. Glory be to NSF. Give Jack some bacon. Jack, there you go. You got some love in the chat, as always. And then
Thank you.
Aaron with a store message. Honestly, I'm glad they scrubbed. Yee. With the way Flight 7 turned out, I'd love a perfect flight. Absolutely. And I love the patch. Might be my favorite yet. Thank you for the effort. None of us want to see scrubs, but we understand they happen. And they're part of what we do, part of what the rocket industry does. And again, as Jack and I were saying, I'd rather have 100% good vehicle in space, not launch, and than what we saw on Flight 7. We got a lot of questions here, guys. You guys want to take some questions? Let's go through.
No, I don't really like questions.
You don't like questions?
No, I'm kidding. I love
the first
questions.
one's going to you, Jack. This is your Magic 8 Ball. This is coming in from Kristen at NASASpaceflight. Do you think they're going to solve the issue for tomorrow's attempt? Magic 8 Ball time, Jack.
Oh, man. It's 50-50. I would have a hard time putting my thumb down one side or the other. I'm sorry. I don't know anything. We don't have a direct line to SpaceX where they're like, hey, this is exactly what's happening right now. They give us periodic updates on X and whatnot. So as soon as we know anything else, you'll know as well. But hopefully the weather for Wednesday's attempt, should they attempt Wednesday, is better than it was on Monday. That's all I'm going to say. Fingers crossed for that. I don't want any more gray nonsense. Blue skies only.
Yes, please.
Strictly blue sky thinking here.
Yep, that would be amazing. Some questions about what happened yesterday. Ryan, we'll go to this one. Joel wants to know, what are the tolerances for the hold? Please speak, rocket nerd. Like, how long can they hold? We'll talk about boil off, things like that.
I think they can hold. I think they were saying 20 minutes is what their hold time was at T-40. Because eventually your propellant temperatures will get out of limits for where SpaceX wants them, and whatnot. So then they have to detank and recycle, or at least try to cool them down again, or even warm up again. Depends on how the temperature goes. Because when you have that much propellant together, sometimes it can act as a heat sink of its own and stay cold, or it can warm up. But either way, usually I think it's around 20 minutes is what they said. and it's really unique to Starship because of the sheer amount of propellant that they have. And that's the reason why they can do it.
Is that so? One of the things that's tricky about launches is I'm not watching the SpaceX stream. A lot of the time I'm not even watching our stream, even though normally I would be, because I'm running around. I have low signal. I'm setting things up. I'm communicating with the producers or whatever. I'm busy. So is that what it is? It's just sheer thermal mass that allows them to hold for that long. Like it maintains its own temperature, or are they like doing something with the tank farm different to enable that?
As far as I know, it's the sheer mass of propellant.
That's remarkable. I mean, it is like 5,000 tons.
It's about 10 times more than like Falcon 9. They subcool it, put it in, and you can't really wait. If you do any kind of waiting, your propellant temperatures get out and you can't launch. Kate Tice yesterday was talking. They basically said it's just the huge amount of propellant on board that literally allows them to hold.
That's so cool.
So
that's so cool.
You have a couple thousand tons of liquid oxygen on board. You have about I think total it's about 5,200 tons of propellant on this vehicle, fully stacked, and with a Block 2 ship and a Block 1 booster, give or take, I guess it's somewhere in around there. But like it's just sheer mass that it holds its temperature for a certain amount of time. And eventually the temperature goes out of range and it, triggers a sensor. And then, of course, it triggers an abort. So basically, it is kind of nuts that they can hold, because it's, even though they're subcooling propellant, it's hilarious. It's really, really cool. And funny thing is, if they stretch it more, they add more propellant, which means the hold time gets longer.
That's so counterintuitive.
That's funny.
Cool.
That's really cool. In fact, it's cryogenic. All right, bye.
For that one, we need a rim shot, Jay.
Oh, God.
This one's for you, Jack. John Cook wants to know at NASASpaceflight, and I'm specifically asking you. You can ask Max and D later.
Okay.
Try something new with a camera as a result of the scrub, giving you more time to prepare for the launch. Great camera question.
I don't know about something new, but I am going to adjust my camera slightly based on what I noticed were the lighting conditions at the time of T0. So some adjustments will be made. I'll also be setting a couple additional cameras, because there's never enough time before a launch. But, magically, with the delays and the scrub, there has been a lot of time to get additional cameras set up. So I'll be setting some more stills cameras than I would normally have time to set up. So that'll be really cool. I will ask Max and D, and next time we're all on stream, we can sort of talk about what the scrub either enabled or ruined.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Let's go a little deeper behind the scenes with you guys and your cameras. Do you guys sit and talk about ideas like, okay, it would be cool if the sun was here and the camera was here and the rocket is here? And I mean, do you actually think about those things ahead of time? Or are you like, I know this is a good shot. I know that's a good shot. I mean, what goes on in the mind of I'm not a photographer. I don't know. I'll stand in front of the camera all day long, but I have no idea where to put it or point it. How do you guys figure all that out?
Oh, dude, you want to have a 30-minute conversation about it? We can. I can only speak to me. I don't know. Sometimes I'll talk about a shot before I shoot it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I won't. Sometimes it's magic that happens in the moment in the camera that you didn't anticipate. Sometimes it's something that you've been trying over and over and over again to catch for years. Sometimes it's an idea that, you're iterating on a theme that you've seen elsewhere. Sometimes it's something that no one's ever done before. Like, it's just... It varies. One small anecdote is Max and I were talking about remotes, what we were going to put where. So we do a little bit of planning in that sense before the attempt on Monday. And one of the things that came up was the weather and which direction the wind was going on launch day, because that dramatically affects where you want to put your cameras. You don't want to put your cameras in a spot where the plume is just going to blow straight towards them, because what's even the point of putting a camera there? So the weather is very important. And based on that discussion that Max and I had, we sort of adjusted where we were going to put stuff. But the weather is one of those factors that's really key.
And actually, the weather is one of the major questions we're getting. People are like, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? So let's bring in Adam Suker, our NSF meteorologist, to give us an update. We all know what the weather was like yesterday, Adam. What is the weather tomorrow? Is it looking better for launch?
Absolutely, Gene. Even hearing Jack talk about the skies, you want these crystal clear blue skies and all that. Well, I might actually have some good news this time around. So we're going to look at the schematic right here of the SKU-T and kind of explain what we're all seeing here. Okay, the red line that kind of goes up vertically and the green line that also goes up vertically, you notice that both of those little lines that are going up, they're kind of far away from each other. Okay, well, that is the humidity. Anytime that green line gets close to the red, that's the dew point get to the saturated level. You want it to be far away like you're seeing. That doesn't happen a lot at the coast unless you get a cold front that swings through. Well, that cold front that's going to swing through is going to help dry out the air. So that's going to help for clearing conditions. Also, if you notice, there's no saturation, meaning like that green and red line is not getting very close to each other. So it's hard to produce clouds either. So we're looking at pretty much crystal clear blue skies. I can't rule out maybe just a few real thin, high passing clouds, but majority is just crystal clear skies. The next good thing is, yes, it's going to be windy on Wednesday. We're going to have like a north wind that's going to be steady with gusts over 20 miles an hour. But as we get closer to that 5:30, 6:30 launch window, the winds are actually going to taper down. So we're talking about winds tapering down to about 15 miles an hour around 5:30 out of the northeast. And then if they can't get that launch window right in at 5:30, the winds will actually slowly shift out more to the east, closer to the 6:30 time frame, and drop even to 10 miles per hour. So we're actually going to see winds slightly decreasing as we get into that launch window, which is good because we do highlighted here in the red circle, there is still a little bit of directional wind shear, but this directional wind shear is not bad at all. It's actually pretty weak. So that means they're within limits. I don't see any problems with launching into that kind of low directional wind shear there. Even the winds aloft are slowly increasing with height, which is good too. So I don't see a problem with the weather actually for once. The temperatures, it's going to be pleasant too. It's going to be low to mid 60s. We'll start off about mid 60s around, 5:30, but as we get closer to 6:30, probably be the low 60s. And then also humidity for down in South Texas. Most of the people that know down there being close to the ocean, it's normally humid. Humidity levels are also only going to be into the low to mid 60s. So we're going to have low humidity. We're going to have very clear visibility on that day too, especially with the winds kind of quietening down a little bit today. It's a little murky out there because we have a lot of strong west winds that's kicking up dirt from like West Texas and a lot of other particulates in the air and stuff like that. So Jack, I hope you're happy. But now, as you talk about cameras, think about this. Though. At 5:30, the winds are going to be coming out of the northeast, meaning they're coming out of the northeast, blowing in that direction. But if it gets closer to 6:30, the wind's going to slowly shift back to the east, which is coming back off the ocean. So you can almost get like slight inland wind early in the window, and then it could change on you. So there is a little, I would say, northeast wind is probably going to be your most likely. So it's going to be still coming slightly off the ocean, but think of northeast wind. That's where it's going to be blowing from and back to the southwest. So it'll be blowing northeast to the southwest. So think of that direction, which is a little different there because normally down on the coast, you're getting that east or southeast wind. But because of this front passing, we're going to slowly get that direction change. So it might be a little more out of the northeast, but it could slowly shift over to the east. But the winds will taper down a little bit during that time too. So,
all right,
stupid question for that forecast.
I'm hearing a lot of
stupid questions.
I'm hearing a lot of things I like. Okay, so you said a north wind, northeast. Does that mean it's coming from the northeast and going southwest, or does that mean it's going from the southwest to the north? I always forget because it's backwards or something, right?
Yeah. So if we say there's a northeast wind, that means if you had a compass in your hand and you look northeast, it's going to be hitting you in the face. So it's it's basically coming from the northeast, but traveling southwest. So
Got
it
it.
means if you have a compass to your hand, you look at it, it's going to be smacking you right in the face.
Okay, I
Which
don't
is-
actually don't
Yeah,
like that. I want the east. Give me the east wind, please. How do I sign up? Can I
Yeah, and-
subscribe? Is it like $29.99 a month where I can get the east wind?
Yeah, I think we
Can I
can get
unlock
that
that?
started. You know, but if they can, if for some reason that window extends closer to the 6:30 at the end of the window, the wind is going to be slowly tapering towards the east more, coming back. So when you're there, the wind would be coming more off the ocean, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's
So
the
if you're
that
looking at the ocean, the wind would be coming more back at you.
to your point, Gene, and thank you, Adam, for this, because it's extremely helpful when you give us these updates. Gene, I need an east wind for a certain shot I'm trying to pull off.
Yeah.
If it's not an east
Yeah.
wind, it doesn't work, and I don't even bother setting that camera. So everyone, cross your fingers for an east wind.
Well, just remember, if Doss was
Yes,
here,
and
he would look at the graph up on the screen, and he would say, "See the green line? How it looks like a person with a weak chin and a big nose looking off to the left? That's good weather. There you go. That's all I need to know right there. Weak chin, big nose, looking left. Good weather."
Can't see it. I can't unsee it.
That's Doss did that the other day. We were all like,
yes.
"What? Mean gorilla? What are you talking about?" Go ahead, Adam.
But yeah, no, I mean, luckily, you know, most people probably are bummed about the scrub, but for photographers, I think this is another dream come true. Is you want those much clearer conditions, because when you're trying to shoot now, obviously y'all do set up some remotes that are pretty close. They can get some pretty clean shots, but for the folks that are having to shoot from a few miles away, you know, people even trying to watch from like South Padre Island, it was very, very hazy and just murky. Everything being in the air. And so luckily with this front passing through, it's going to clean the air up. And, you know, unfortunately, as the wind does shift back to the east, it does start pulling that moisture back off the ocean, but it's going to happen so subtle that we won't see a huge like influx with humidity and moisture, where you get those moisture particulates in the air. And especially like the sea breeze, you get a lot of that, you know, salt that kind of blows up from the ocean too, that gets all mixed in the air. So luckily you won't have a lot of that tomorrow. You will have that strong wind though during the day though, so that will kind of make it maybe a little hazy just a little bit during the day with the normal breeze going on. But as it tapers off, I see conditions kind of actually improving as we get towards the later half of the day. So, but yeah, no, I like to give good forecasts and not the ones like, oh, we're really, you know, worried about the wind field and this and that. But yeah, luckily it still looks within the margin. Yeah, like today, looking from there, it's pretty hazy, and we expect that with this wind that we're having in the front passing through, and it's picking up a lot of dirt and dust in the air and making it not too nice.
Yeah. Well, the weather's going to weather, and none of us control it. If you do, Adam, you're holding out on us. But we appreciate the weather updates and, you know, keeping your eye on those things for us. And again, we don't control that, but we kind of know what the tolerances are for the vehicle. So if we get close, maybe they can fix whatever they're trying to fix, and we can do this thing tomorrow or Thursday or whenever they decide to launch it. So Adam Suker, thank you very much, our meteorologist here at NSF. Let's bring Ryan back in and switch gears a little bit, and talk about the news that broke yesterday while we were on our launch stream about the future plans at Roberts Road, and then also here at Starbase with the factory build. Ryan, you want to talk us through what kind of broke yesterday? Some big SpaceX news.
Yeah, so we had seen filings for the Giga Bay at Roberts Road, and we had seen that it was we kind of measured out the footprint, and it was like it's like 7 megabays size, but according to SpaceX is about 11 times more than what they get with their current megabays. They currently have 5 workstations, whether it's turntables or work stands in their megabays. This is going to have, was it 24? I think it was 24. But like and according to this render, you're going to have 2 transfer aisles. So basically, it's going to get hooked into your, it's going to get hooked into the Star Factory there, which you see is the white building that's basically hooked into the Giga Bay. And they're going to have 2 transfer aisles building ships plus boosters along with the refurbishment, 24 stands, and it is a gigantic. Oh, and on top of that, 400-ton cranes. That's even more than what's in the vertical assembly building.
Now, hang on a minute. Hang on a second. In this picture, you see that's a Block 2 ship on the right.
That looks like an extended Block 1.
Okay.
Is what it looks
I was going to
like.
ask about the booster specifically because these things are supposed to be tall enough to get what Block 2s and 3s of the booster in and out, no problem. This render looks a little short, or the booster looks a little tall, if that's the case.
It's just I wouldn't really.
I mean, it's a render.
Take
We
too
can't
much
go
stock
off of
into
it,
this
obviously.
one because that render looks like a Block 1 booster with. I don't even know if it's an integrated hot stage ring, but it looks like they both look like extended vehicles to what the Block 3 is going to end up being, where booster is going to be about 80 meters and ship will be about 70 at the end of it all, is what that render looks like. Because that's what we're thinking. Or at least 65, 70, because we're thinking. I think Block 3 at this rate is going to be an 80-meter tall booster with I'm thinking a 60 to 65-meter tall ship. I think they're only going to add 10 more meters to it, plus, of course, 3 more RVACs. So your stack is then what? I'm just thinking that in my head, but the current mega bays that they have are not tall enough to do that. They are barely tall enough for a 70-meter tall booster, let alone an 80-meter tall booster. So those bays that you see there, Mega Bay 2 might stay as like a payload processing for a while, but I would expect the parking lot, the Stargate building, and the high bay to go. Because right there is where you'll fit the Giga Bay. It'll fit right in that slot. Yeah, I know they just built the parking garage, but come on, it's SpaceX. They demolish things after they build it.
They have a history of hating parking lots.
It's kind of like a modular structure. They can kind of take that thing apart and move it to that parking garage. It's not like poured concrete walls. It's fitted concrete pieces. They could kind of disassemble it and move it if they utterly had to, which is not really the end of the world. They could move it to another location. They got others. I mean, they don't have a lot of other space, but they definitely have other locations they could put it. And Giga Bay will probably go right there, and it'll probably be attached into the Star Factory. So basically, the tall part of the factory will get attached into the Giga Bay. So you'll roll sections from Star Factory into the Giga Bay, and you won't see you'll see basically parts and steel rolls go into the factory, and what comes out will be a completed vehicle for cryo testing or for engine testing. That's what you'll see.
And these are some of the pictures you're seeing on screen. There's the mega bays, and then you have the high bay. And I want to light chat up. How many of you were here for the windbreak days or pre-windbreak days with the tent? If you were here for that, first time I came to Starbase, I was like, oh my gosh, there's the windbreak. And now all of that's gone. It's a Star Factory. And
the building they tried to build faster by deleting a wall turns out didn't work.
Yeah, not a good plan.
I remember before the windbreak when it was just a small tent building Hopper.
Yep.
And they had the nose cone for Hopper that got blown over in the wind. I remember those days. I guess I remember. I never was down there, but I remember when Boca was a mound of dirt that they planned on putting a Falcon 9 Falcon Heavy launch pad at the launch site. This place has definitely come a long way. They have 2 mega bays with a high bay where days are numbered, and a 1 million square foot factory with a new office building that I don't know if anyone noticed yesterday, but they were in the office building yesterday, Dan and Kate Tice. So they were pretty close to the launch site. I wonder if that glass is blast proof. But either way, they were pretty close to the launch site for that launch, which obviously scrubbed. But either way, it's kind of nuts how far it's come, and it's going to go even farther because they're going to greatly expand their capability, not only here, but of course in Roberts Road. I mean, Roberts Road, that Giga Bay is also going to get a 1.5 million square foot Star Factory. So you're basically It's 50% larger than what they've got. I would expect also an office building there, maybe even a launch control there for Starship. I wouldn't even be surprised if they built a second Giga Bay at Roberts Road at some point. There's 24 stations is a lot. If they want to build as many ships and boosters as I think they want to build, one isn't enough. It's not actually enough.
It's going to come to the point when your grandkids will be like, "Grandpa, tell me about the time the windbreak was still there," that kind of thing, right? You're like, "I remember when before there was a rocket factory."
Where's Dan? What? Oh,
I did go to a wedding over the summer last year, and words were said along the lines of, "We come from a time before reusable rockets were a thing," which
yeah.
yeah, that'll sound old timey. Just give it a couple more years.
Yep, that's exactly right. Okay, so we've got some news. We've got to tell you about the Flight 8 patch because we're about 70, maybe 75% sold out of that pre-order. All right, so if you want to get a Flight 8 patch, and yes, Flight 8's going to happen here, maybe in the next few days, but you can go to shop.nasaspaceflight.com and pre-order your patch. And I recommend you do it right now before they're sold out. Literally, we did this. We launched it when they stacked. It was a bad term. We announced it when they did the full stack, and we have almost sold out of the entire thing. So get out there and get your patch right now.
I simultaneously can't believe how fast it sold, and also am completely like, it makes perfect sense why it sold so fast. Look how cool it is.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous, and I'm definitely going to get one of the shirts. Probably not in orange, Jack. I'm gonna
get stickers. Roger inspired me.
Is this shirt from the last patch there?
Roger inspired me. He's got all the stickers lined up on the back of his camper, so I think I'm gonna get a complete set of stickers and start on a cooler or something.
Yeah. That's very nice, very nice. The other thing that you can get at shop.nasaspaceflight.com that takes care of our photographers, it's nice to have Jack here, and we talk about Dee and Max and Tyler and all the other folks out there working on the cameras, are the metal prints. So when you go to shop.nasaspaceflight.com, you can check out the metal prints, and that actually supports the photographers and the work that they do. So if you like their work, I've got a D-Wise. I haven't got it signed yet, and I need to get a Max. I need to get a Jack, like artists, right? You collect your favorite artists, but all of the metal prints out there, they come in various sizes, and they're absolutely beautiful. They come with everything you need to hang them on the wall. So just go to the website, go to the shop, and just have fun with that, because there's a lot of great stuff out there for you to memorialize this. It's funny, we were talking about just a second ago how we're going to be, tell me when rockets weren't reusable, Grandpa. And, well, there's a piece of history right there hanging on the wall from one of the NSF photographers, and I think they're absolutely just artists in what they do. So
thank you, dude.
That.
And
show them some
love.
It really, and pick it up.
Really does make a difference. Like, gear rentals are not cheap. So it really does. Every print, whether it's paper or metal or what have you, every little bit helps. So thank you all. It's a hugest honor possible to be a photographer and have someone like your work enough to have it on the wall. So thank you.
Yeah, so go check that out. Again, shop.nasaspaceflight.com. So thank you guys for all the support. And let me thank some of these folks. Timothy Millen with a super chat. Thanks, NSF. Love what you do to align us on making us interplanetary species. That's the big one. That getting to becoming an interplanetary species is the stated goal. As Jack and I, we've talked many times about, this is the only planet where we live without spacesuits. We have to take care of this one, but getting out there into space and colonizing another planet is as important. That way, we could probably take care of this one maybe a little bit better, right, Jack? We talked about that before.
Hopefully, that's the hope, anyway, right?
Let's see, Ben. Thank you for that super chat. Where they get energy for computers and all that?
Batteries.
Yeah, batteries.
Oh,
from the sun.
I wonder if they still use Tesla batteries on the vehicle. I know they did in the old times. I don't know if they still do. I doubt it, but maybe.
I don't know. We don't really get a look at them anymore. The batteries are under the chines now. Basically, the chines have batteries, some of the computer stuff. They've got COPVs, and then of course they've got the CO2 tanks in there.
I like how you called it computer stuff. That's the aerospace term, right? It's not avionics; it's computer stuff.
Well, it's avionics, technically speaking. It's
flight
control computers, whatever you want to call it. I don't know their exact name for it.
Thinking sand.
Yeah. Oh God.
So actually, this is an interesting question about. I think they're talking about the tank in Florida, the big hydrogen tank. Joel would thank you for that super chat. Prop Boiloff, how will an orb tanking work? Will orbit tanking? Let me see if I can figure this out.
In orbit tanking.
Is it on orbit refueling or going to Mars, or how will that work? That's I think what it is. That Boiloff.
Well, yeah, trying to tank in orbit is not easy. That's a problem that still has to be solved. And then especially
here's my theory.
Mhm.
It is easy. I bet that's going to be one of those things where we're all like, "Oh no, this is going to take a long time and be really complicated," and then SpaceX is just like, "Done."
So I just saw a NASA video. I just saw a NASA video of two of the astronauts on the ISS demonstrate it with 2 bottles, a piece of tape, and some straw and some Alka-Seltzer. That was a great video.
That was Matthew Dominic and Don Pettit, I think.
Yeah,
that was a really great video.
Yeah, it was a really interesting
It's just
example of how things work in orbit.
Just
No
in terms of
one's done
boil-off, you can point the engines towards the sun, and all of that mass. No, I'm serious. You point the engines towards the sun. The engine
Rotate
section where there's no tankage soaks up as much thermal energy from the sun as you can. The rest of the ship is effectively in the shadow of the engine
just
section.
rotate the ship like a
And then
rotisserie
you-
chicken.
Yeah, and then you do a small little
Barbecue
barbecue roll to keep things mixed properly. But there's that. And then what you could do, again, I'm so not a rocket engineer, but maybe what you could do for a prop transfer, you could do that crazy spinning thing, that the video we were just talking about, which is amazing. You could do that. You could also, maybe you point one of the 2 ships, the one with the fuel that's getting transferred, toward the sun, so it heats up. So it's just naturally wanting to flow out of that one into the void of the other one because it's heat. I don't know if encouraging boil off is a good method of fuel transfer, but again,
Because you have
I'm
to
not a
cool it
rocket
off
scientist.
again is the problem, and it's not
Right.
like it's easy to do that on
It's
orbit.
a method.
Yeah.
It's
Here's that
method.
demo.
Oh yeah,
That's
this
fun.
is fantastic. Yeah, check this out. It's literally a couple of bottles.
It's just guys being dudes.
Yeah, Sandy, he's holding a towel, but you got to like scrub through the video a little bit where they put the 2 bottles together and then they jam the Alka-Seltzer and their water goes everywhere. It's hilarious. It's actually
Water looks
really really interesting.
On the
So
one hand, it's
weird.
like a fun, like, hey, we're having fun in 0G. Isn't this a fun video? Haha. On the other hand, it's like actually kind of a meaningful experiment.
Yep. Yeah.
A, it's educational, and B, this is the kind of thing that you can do on the ISS and try on the ISS, and maybe learn some things.
So
by
in a
doing.
small scale, but this is the kind of stuff they showed us when they were doing the belly flop tests and the launch tests when we were all Texas Tank Watchers. With the camera inside, you see the fuel sloshing around and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And inside that water bottle is an example of the tank. Now they're going to add some Alka-Seltzer, which pressurizes it. And then here comes my favorite part, where it doesn't automatically shoot out the back because all the propellant's on one side of the tank. There it is. As soon as it reaches that point, it gets pushed out. This is my favorite, but they're just guys being guys, like you said.
Yeah.
There's one point in the video where he has to tap the bottle, which is that slow acceleration they give. They give the whole ship just a little nudge, which settles all the fuel. There's a part in the video where he does that, and it honestly, he taps it. The fuel goes toward the nozzle, if you will, and it just kind of shoots forward a little bit. It's a really, really great demonstration. And like Jack said, there are several ways that they could potentially do it. All right, here it is. So all the fuel is not near the tip of the bottle. Yeah, I'm watching it delayed, by the way.
There you go.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's awesome. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, if you guys aren't following
good.
Don Pettit and Matthew Dominic on X, the Everything app, you should be, because the content is not just fun, goofy videos like this. It's also amazing photography.
Yeah,
Check it out.
yeah. It's really, really good stuff. And again, that's science. That's why we're here, because we're rocket nerds, and they're doing rocket science like right there on the ISS in small scale with a towel and Alka-Seltzer. And I love that about it. Couple more people to thank, then we're going to switch back to talk about Starship and potentially what happens tomorrow or the next day. We had a great, if you missed it, if you just joined us, we had a great weather update from Adam Suker earlier in the show, so scrub back and watch that if you just joined us. But I want to thank Wheel Neal. Thank you very much for becoming a Pad Rep member. And also, I'm going to mess this name up. It's right in the light. DeViolio? Yeah, nailed that first time. Thank you for that super chat. Positive results without making excuses. Thank you guys so much for your support. And let's talk quickly, Ryan, about tomorrow. We still have them on the pad. They're underneath Ship 34. We don't know exactly what they're looking for, but they're looking for something. We know the booster had an issue. We know the ship had an issue. And the words we were getting was it's going to clear before T minus 40 seconds. Of course, one did. Then another issue happened with the 20 bars. So give us a quick rundown. Just got about 5 more minutes. Just give us a quick rundown of what's going to happen. They're going through that. Then they have to restack it. And then what?
Well, that is kind of the interesting question. So they fix everything they need to do. And then the question becomes, all right, do they need to validate this before they try another count? And if they do, how do they do that? So if what they fix, if they decide that, okay, we're just going to go for another count and they can get it fixed, get it restacked tonight and go for tomorrow, then basically they try for the count and they test everything. They validate it during the countdown. They go in, they launch. The other option to that is they go, okay, well, what we found was a little bit more than we thought or whatever. And they go, okay, well, we need to validate this. Well, they could do a wet dress rehearsal. Now, that's a lot of work because you have to close the road. You have to evac the village because you're putting that much propellant on board. The other thing they could do is they could do a small tanking test. Stack the vehicles, maybe load all the tanks up to about a third, kind of run through the count a little bit, do some engine chill, do some kind of things around here, detank it and whatnot. Then you don't use as much propellant. You don't take as much time. You don't have to evac the village. You don't have to do a lot of things. But you can still validate the stuff like they've done in the past where they've done full stack tanking tests. This is not saying that they're going to do it. Just straight up. They might do it. It's really dependent on what SpaceX thinks they might need to do to validate the fixes that they've got. If they decide that they're good to go, then they'll just restack tonight and go into the count tomorrow, and they'll validate whatever fixes they have during the count, get through T minus 40 and launch it. It's really up to SpaceX. We're just going to have to wait and see. If we do see if they think that they might need a validation, I would expect a stack tonight, a possible revoking of tomorrow's closure. They push it to Thursday and they do a testing closure tomorrow. If they have to do that, that's only if. There definitely will be signs if they decide to do something along those lines. But, I mean, for people who are down there for watching it, for me and for others' sake, I hope they just go for it tomorrow. I think that they can figure whatever they need to out during the count, but it's also dependent on what actually is wrong because we don't really know what's wrong. All we know is they had a bunch of hold hits and everything else. So there's a lot of stuff that's up in the air for it, and we're just going to have to wait and see what SpaceX says and what they do with the ship.
Jack, what kind of work are you guys and the other camera operators or camera photographers? What are you guys doing today and tomorrow for tomorrow's potential attempt?
Oh man, how many? We have 1 minute and 54 seconds left in the show.
Yeah, go.
I'll just make like a high pitched screaming sound, and you can slow that down. It'll be like a high frequency data burst. No, there's a lot to get done. We need to get the outpost sorted out. On Monday's attempt, D sort of had to last minute relocate to the river, which was no fun. And then we have to capture this insane person behind me and return them to the safe house in which they are kept for all of our safety. Also, this person, I don't know what. Yeah, there's a lot to get done. I have more cameras to set. Last night, we all went out, D, Max, and I all went out and grabbed a bunch of our stuff that we had set for the attempt so that we could get it all cleaned up and reset and batteries charged and all that. So thankfully, mercifully, a lot of stuff is already set up. And it's just a matter of like put camera back in place rather than like carry out cinder blocks and carry out tripods and set all the things. And then PJ. Could you not?
Sorry, I'll go now. I'm sorry, guys.
Could you?
Fine,
All right,
fine.
all right. Yeah, there's a lot to do when these guys are just hamming it up behind me. But apparently, there's a lot to do.
I should have warned you they were coming that way. That's
No worries.
EJ wants to play with everybody else's toys. That's the look. There he comes. There's EJ.
He,
You know it's
he
EJ 'cause
sneakily
he's got
came
the
up at
special
one point and gave me a handful of Tic Tacs. I have no idea why, but you know what? They were orange.
And they,
You're being
they
accosted.
were orange. That's right.
They go in the orange hole.
You guys are killing me. Hey, one last store message from Ben. Been watching since SN8. This is a good one. Been watching since SN8 was taken to the pad, how it blew all over our minds, how big half the ship was, and how crazy it will be transporting a fully finished ship. Probably talking about Block 2, Block 3. Go away,
no, I
EJ.
remember when they first put a nose cone on 8. I remember running around the streets in Los Feliz with a camera pointed at me, going, "We're going to Mars!" Like that was a big deal. I think Ben got a print of mine as well. Thank you, Ben. That really means the most.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Now we have 2 towers, massive buildings, and the tents are gone. Love your work. Thank you. Thank you so much for that support, Ben. We greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, dude.
Guys, this has been Countdown to Launch. I want to thank Jack for joining us today.
No worries.
All right, go get to work now. And Ryan, the one and only Ryan Weber.
They're all standing right here looking at me. Ryan, help me, please. Can you help me?
Just
Can you
move
help?
the green screen. They're all right there.
I'm like
no. He's
a day's travel worth
Max
from you.
is-
I don't know what I could do to help you.
I don't know.
But
I need an adult. I need an adult.
Am I an
Dan.
adult?
Wait,
No, don't full screen it. No.
I heard Dan was the responsible one.
Or Jay, or whoever.
No. We only have a few responsible people here at NSF. And
Run the boss.
Oh no.
Oh God, Doss.
there's
is
one
here.
of them. That's one of
there's
our
Doss.
Why
responsible-
is this a thing? I
is the
would
thing.
never do this to any of you, for the record.
Oh, sure.
Never.
Sure,
I would
sure.
never.
Max.
Sure, Jack. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Jeez.
just proof that we're not, as Doss says, a professional news organization. Just a bunch of friends hanging out.
No. Anyway,
good stuff.
It's a pleasure as always. It's always fun hanging out with viewers, members, with everyone else. It's been fun these last I think 6 days straight at this rate. If they go tomorrow, it'll be 7 days of streams for me for NSF. It's always a ton of fun. A lot of fun stuff happening in spaceflight. So
Absolutely
definitely worth coming on.
Absolutely. And if you want more of this fun stuff behind the scenes, be sure to become a member. Capcom and above get all this stuff on Discord. You can get Discord access with all the behind the scenes where we're joking and laughing and having a good time. And also, don't forget, shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I'm Gene Rowley. Thank you so much for joining us on this Countdown to Launch. Remember, dream big, everybody, and keep your eyes on the stars.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside SPD off. SPD off. It's orange!
R45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Décollage. Look at this! Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go. Indeed. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.